welcome to Encore in Cannes, where politics and current affairs are always reflected in the programming. The war in Ukraine, something the festival engaged with long before the red carpet was rolled out here. And after President Volodymyr Zelensky's appearance in the opening ceremony, they've been shining a light on the situation on the ground with the documentary Mariupolis 2, whose director was actually killed in the conflict. Young talent Maxim Nakonechny brings us a story from Donbas in Butterfly Vision, and celebrated filmmaker Sergei Loznitsa is here with his latest feature, The Natural History of Destruction, which discusses the human cost of war. Sergei Loznitsa, hello. Your film, The Natural History of Destruction, takes us back to the Second World War to ask a crucial question. How does breaking a population's moral and psychological defences act as a weapon of war? And to bring that question into a contemporary context in Ukraine, how important is winning hearts and minds there, do you think?
Дело в том, что 24 февраля нас этого года...
The fact is, on February 24th this year, we were all thrown back in time.
И мы вдруг узнали о том, что эти 80 лет...
And we suddenly found that 80 years ago, the horror which we did not want to be repeated again,
вдруг вернулись.
Suddenly came upon us. That is the horror of World War II in Europe. And unfortunately, we found out that in those 80 years, no effort, no reflection had been made for humanity to prevent such conflicts and in clarifying countries' attitudes towards one another. We therefore find ourselves helpless, facing the nightmare which we see happening every day on our TV screens. I was shocked by the cruelty with which Russian soldiers are destroying Ukrainian cities and killing Ukrainian people. The only question which comes to mind is, where have these people come from? And how powerless we are in trying to stop all of this.
Вопрос возникает, откуда вообще все эти люди взялись, и насколько мы бессильны всему этому противостоять.
This film was made before the invasion of Ukraine in February, and when that happened, you decided to step down from the European Film Academy because of their, quote, neutral response to the aggression. The Cannes Film Festival went a bit further, saying that official Russian delegations would not be welcome here this year.
We issued a press release 2 months ago to define a very precise and clear stance, which is no official Russian representatives, that is to say, government bodies, of a government which is waging war in Ukraine.
Was that the sort of stance you were hoping for?
I find the stance of the Cannes Film Festival absolutely appropriate because today any official delegation representing the Russian Federation represents a fascist state. Yet I do not agree with excluding those Russian authors, artists, filmmakers who are against this war, who are, just like the rest of the civilized world, trying to fight against this evil.
Indeed, artists like Kirill Serebrennikov, who's showing a film in competition this year, have suffered for their politics in the past in Russia. But how do you feel about Russian artists accepting state funding for their projects?
I think that each person has to make their own decision, but I think that these authors should be aware that by doing this, by accepting state funding, they are working with a fascist state. For the authors, it raises the question of, can they accept money from the Russian state? If you ask me, would I accept money from the Russian state if I was a Russian director? The answer is, of course, no.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has become a regular sight on our TV screens. He even participated in the opening ceremony here at the Cannes Film Festival.
We need a new chaplain who will prove once again that cinema is not silent. Of course, we will continue to fight because we have no other choice than to fight for freedom. And I am convinced that the dictator will lose.
What do you think about his recent visibility, his communication style?
First of all, I'm very proud of my president, who I voted for. He is a wonderful human being. He is a very sensitive, deep, and moral human being. And he represents Ukraine very well in his speeches, addressing the parliaments of various countries. And in his address at the opening of the Cannes Film Festival, he gave a fantastic speech.
You were born in Belarus at the time of the USSR. Your family moved to Ukraine. I believe you've lived in Russia as well. There's been a lot of debate recently about the identity of Ukrainians in the west and the east of the country, suggesting that their allegiances or their aspirations are different. How do you see the post-Soviet landscape right now? Do you think there's real sovereignty 30 years on?
That is not an easy question. We are in the process of seeing history change before our eyes. And in my lifetime, the USSR collapsed. And independent countries were formed. And some countries, like the Baltic states of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, joined the European Union and started to rapidly develop as European states. But certain countries remain at different stages of establishing their independent state. As you can see, the desire of the empire and the rulers of the empire to regain their lost territories is so strong that Ukraine now has to fight for its freedom and sovereignty. You were here last year at the Cannes Film Festival with the documentary Babi Yar, Context, which deals with the massacre of Ukrainian Jews in 1941. Do you feel that you have a role as a historian, uncovering new facts from the past, for example? Is that what you set out to do as a filmmaker? I don't really consider myself to be a historian, and I don't think it's a historical film. I wish to plunge the spectator into the atmosphere of that time and to somehow encourage them to reflect on what happened in the past and to reflect on the tragedies and the nightmare.
Sergei Loznitsa, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Cinema in the Spotlight on France 24 and France24.com.